Welcome back to Einstein Media Center, your one-stop shop for all unnecessary media dissection. It is New Year's Eve. Um, and this is a different room than I've ever filmed in. I moved. I also don't post anymore. I want to get into the habit of posting again. Not that I ever posted it frequently, ever, but life changes and such. I know I've done in the past like year-end discussions about favorite albums and whatnot, and I'm not going to do that. I want to focus on, and whatever the thumbnail is, you probably already get it. It is going to be music, obviously. I want to talk about my favorite album this year. And I think I have the title of the video already thought of, and it probably will stay, but in case I choose a different title, here's the inspiration for the video. My favorite album of the year is not a 10, and that's a good thing. Or my favorite album of the year isn't a 10, and that's okay. And really what I want to talk about is why I love this album. I'm really not going to get into it too much, not doing a big review, but I'll talk about a little bit what I really like about it, why I connect with it, and then talk about some of the reasons why I don't think it's a 10, and just a bit of a discussion about, again, why that's a positive, why that's a good thing, and like the subjectivity in art and why that's important and good and, beautiful and blah, blah, blah. We like art. So my favorite album this year, well, I'll talk about a few albums I really liked. My Spotify Wrapped, my top 5 artists in descending order were JPEG Mafia, Giz, Beyonce, Tyler the Creator, and Charlie XCX. That Tyler album really grew on me. I saw King Giz in Labor Day. What is that, September? Labor Day weekend? That was really cool. Charlie album just banged. JPEG Mafia album banged, and I thought the Beyonce album was really good. Some other albums I really liked, Job for a Cowboy album. I'm a huge Job for a Cowboy fan, so after 10 years, I thought that was a lot better than Sun Eater even was, so love that album. And then, just off the top of my head, Shame by a band called Meth. They're like an experimental black metal group from Chicago. Really like that album. But my favorite album this year, it's the album I've come back to so much, was Charm by Clairo. I loved that album. I really love singer-songwriter music. I really love piano-heavy singer-songwriter music. And I think Leon Michaels, who produced the album, he did a great job. And two of my favorite songs on the album, pretty much everybody's favorite song on the album, Juna, featured keys from, gonna screw up his name, Marco Benviento, I believe it's pronounced. But he has done work with Leon Michaels, but I'm really more familiar with him because he's done keyboards in J-Rad, Joe Russo's Almost Dead. If you could probably see, I like the Grateful Dead. And if you know J-Rad, you know. And I've seen J-Rad before, and they were phenomenal. And I really liked all the keys all over this album, but specifically on Terrapin and on Juna. I learned Juna myself on piano. I got sheet music up there. And it's funny, when I first was listening to the album, I saw some people talking about it, but I really never listened to Clairo before. And I was like, whatever. I see a lot of internet dweebs like it. I'm sure I would like it. And I really liked it, and I looked and I was like, okay, the only single that was out was Sexy to Someone at the time. And that's the second song on the album. And I was like, okay, it's a good song. And then I was just listening to the album, going about my day, whatever I was doing, and then Juna came on. And I was like, whoa. It's almost like when you come up from water and like you can hear again. That's Juna just sounds so different than every song on the album. And I don't know exactly what it is, but it is, to me, and this is my opinion, like so clearly the best song on the album. Give me 1 second. Okay, cool. But yeah, I just love that song. But I listened to the whole album, and so I really like singer-songwriter music. I really think it's incredible. She writes really great songs, and again, got to give it to El Michaels Affair. Great production. It's so lush. It is spacey. It has a lot of really beautiful instrumentation on it. Again, it's so piano forward and piano heavy, and I really love that sound. Um, but even songs like, you know, uh, Thank You, like there's like there's like a little bridge in the towards like the middle end of Thank You, and it's just like this weird spacey thing, and it's like, where did that come from? Why did she do that? Why did they decide to do that? And then I feel like there's a lot of those little um, kind of moments all over the album. But, y- you know, I think it's a great album. I love the album. And I would say every single song, from the start of the album up through Juna is a banger. Love it. And like, even Sexy to Someone, even though I'm not like, oh, it's my favorite song, I think it's a great song. I love Second Nature, Slow Dance, Thank You. And Terrapin is definitely a little bit self-indulgent, but I really like that kind of thing. I love, The Grateful Dead and like classic, like psychedelic music and a lot of modern psychedelic music. So like, I'm totally cool when a pop artist does a Terrapin, where it's like a bit of a self-indulgent detour on the album, especially going right into Juna. Like, loved it. That being said, Add Up My Love, Echo, Glory of the Snow. I think they're good songs. I don't think they're bad songs. I don't think they're like skips. Also, like, to me, there's no such thing as a skip on an album. It's got to be horrendous to be a skip. So, like, um, I think they're good songs, but they kind of lose my attention a little bit. That being said, I think A Strong End with Pier 4, I think it's a very beautiful song. But that's kind of the root of the conversation I want to get into. I think 3 of the 11 songs on the album are like good. They're not bad, they're good. And I can say, like, maybe that Shame album um, is a better album. Oh, that Jordy Griep album is probably a better album. It's just like a very well composed album. And like, I don't want to say there's more talent that went in, but maybe it's more musical per se. Um, but it doesn't, speak to me as much. It doesn't affect me as much. And like, for the Claire album, it reminded me a lot of like Carole King and other 70s women, singer-songwriter, kind of soft rock vibes. And I really love that sound. So like, maybe that's why the Claire album spoke to me a little bit more. But again, I think it's important that everybody's very obsessed. I don't want to say obsessed. Everybody's very um, into looking like, oh, well, this is a better album and this is a better album, and this is how you should be ranking them. And I do think there is something to be said when there's like a lot of critical acclaim for albums. It's like, that's something you should probably take a look at and see why you do or don't like it, and there might be a good reason why everybody does like it. But I also think it's important that we understand you can't really like properly rank albums. You can't properly rank art in general. And it is fun too. It's fun to have these conversations about it. I mean, that's why the internet music scene is as robust at it as it is, because we're all very passionate about how we feel about all of these different pieces of art. But I think it's really important to be able to say, maybe not from an objective stance, but from your subjective opinion. And it's like, you know, I really like this Clairo album. I do think there are a few, I don't want to say duds, but songs that aren't maybe up to muster. Um, but despite its flaws, I still love this album. It's my favorite album of the year. It's the one I'm going back to. And like I said before, it reminded me of like a lot of Carole King and like older, softer singer-songwriter records, or like Terrapin reminds me, not just because it's got the J-Rad keyboardist on it and it reminds me of Terrapin Station, but it is a spacey psychedelic detour on the album. Like, my father loves the Grateful Dead. My mother loves Carole King. Like, I felt a lot of emotional impact from this album. And I think that's important. I think it's important that we, as consumers of art, are able to understand why we do and don't like certain things, and also like stand on your belief. You don't, you know, even if it's not the most like critically acclaimed album, figure out why you like it. Dissect within yourself why it speaks to you and why you think it's a better album than, I don't know, whatever the most critically acclaimed album that was this year. I know, like, it was like, I don't know, whatever it was. I guess it was Brat. That was the one that everybody liked, and that was the most culturally relevant. And I guess I'm guilty of it. Charlie was my most listened to artist, but Juno was my most listened to song. And I don't know. Again, I think it's really important for us as people who consume and connect with art to really figure out why we care about these things and why certain pieces of art speak to us, and, make sure we do stand on our beliefs. Like, this was my favorite album of the year, despite its flaws. And I think that's cool. And I think it's really important that we all have these differences in opinions, and our lived experiences and the pieces of art that shaped our music taste, kind of influence how we are progressing forward with our consumption of art. And then tangentially, I really like this album because it also, if you were obsessed with this album the way I was, you probably got, and if you're also obsessed with hip hop the way I am, like, you probably got a lot of recommendations of people like mashing up like Griselda and Tyler and MF Doom to like remixes on Terrapin and Juna and all of these other songs on the album. And I think it's really beautiful when art inspires others to make art themselves. And that's like one of the most beautiful things in the world. So, I mean, and it got me playing piano again for the first time in God knows how long. So that made me happy too. But yeah, favorite album of the year is Charm by Clairo, and that was just a very small, off the cuff, brief discussion on why I like the album and, why, despite its flaws, I think it's special that my favorite album is this album, and that, I understand why I love it so much, and, nothing's going to change it. So I don't know. I just think that's cool, and I think everybody should, with whatever it is, movies, books, just figure out why you like things. I think that's important because it teaches you a lot about yourself. But yeah, thanks for joining. I hope this gets, if it got to 30 views, wow, that would be something else. And hopefully I got a few ideas for some other videos. Hopefully I'll be able to do them soon. But yeah, this was fun. I'm glad to do it again, and hopefully I'll see y'all soon.